Have you ever made a covenant with someone? More than likely, all of us have. But what exactly is a covenant? The Insight book describes a covenant as an agreement between two or more people to do or refrain from doing some act. It can be likened to the word contract or promise in our modern day. Some covenants are so strong that they can save lives or destroy them. But in the case of Joshua and the Gibeonites, it saved the Gibeonites' lives. Let's look at that. Turn to Joshua chapter 9, and let's start at verse 8. It reads, "They replied to Joshua, 'We are your servants.' Then Joshua said to them, 'Who are you, and where do you come from?' At this they said to him, 'Your servants have come from a very distant land out of regard for the name of Jehovah your God, because we have heard about his fame and about all he did in Egypt.'" Let's go down further to verses 15 and 16. So Jehovah made peace with them. So Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. And that is what the chieftains of the assembly swore to them in an oath. At the end of 3 days, after they made a covenant with them, they heard that they lived nearby, in the vicinity. So, what had happened here was, the Gibeonites were accursed Canaanites who were to be destroyed by the Israelites. So, they wanted to save their lives by making a covenant with Joshua. But they lied and said they were from a very distant land, even though they lived nearby to the Israelites. Why did they do that? Let's go to Joshua chapter 9 and verse 22 and 24. Joshua now called them and said to them, "Why did you trick us by saying, 'We are from a place very far away from you,' when you really live right among us?" Verse 24, they answered Joshua, "It was because your servants were plainly told that Jehovah your God had commanded Moses his servant to give you all the land and to annihilate all its inhabitants before you. So we were afraid for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this." So the Gibeonites lied about where they resided. They did so because they grew fearful after hearing that the Israelites were to, as the scripture says, annihilate all its inhabitants before them. So what was Joshua to do? The covenant had already been made. Did this give him reason to break the covenant, or did he stick with it? Turn to Joshua chapter 9 and verse 19 through 21. At this, all the chieftains said to the entire assembly, "Since we swore an oath to them by Jehovah, the God of Israel, we are not allowed to hurt them. This is what we will do. We will let them live, so that there is no indignation against us because of the oath that we swore to them." And the chieftains added, "Let them live, but let them become gatherers of wood and drawers of water for all the assembly." That is what the chieftains promised them. So, even though the Gibeonites lied and tricked them, the covenant had been made and sworn in the name of Jehovah, so they were allowed to live. But, as the scripture says, they became gatherers of wood and water as punishment instead for their deceitfulness. So what can we learn from this? If we make a covenant with someone, we should keep it. Joshua could have killed them for lying to him, but he kept the sanctity of Jehovah's name by not breaking it. So friends, do well to ask yourselves, do I keep my word when making promises? Do I look for opportunity to break my promises when something happens? We don't want to have the attitude of, well, I did promise my dad I would help him with the car this weekend, but John said he wants to hang out, so I think I'm going to cancel my plans with my dad. Or, man, I promised Brother Burris I'd go on that Bible study with him, but I'm just so tired. It can be easy to do what we want to do versus what is right. But if we keep our word, not only do we gain the trust of those who we make promises to, but most importantly, we make Jehovah's heart happy, and that should be our main goal for everything that we do.
Brother